Kialo kiabene, Doni Tawara, Kialo kiabene, Ine Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kanga kanga ya, Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Chipachi, Kanga kanga yo, Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kanga kanga yo, Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kine Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Doni Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Diri Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Ayumbamba Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Sida Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Okine Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kanga kanga yo, Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kanga kanga yo, Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Bariri bariri be, Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Yekyo kulila mina mana kanga, Muno Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kine Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Gamba Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Kine Tawara, Kialo kiabene. Auno rimbo yetu aimba wabuyanje mambo tuwaira barongo bakura sana bamuremena bansebi abichikwayane bakobami abichike ba mama baezina kayumba yetu bakimye katete bana babo futi baliliye ni Chinyanda nabo betusha akwire n'abana babiri mu accident twajikire basatu mpaka imyetu yatama Robert Mwanza mama baimisa yabulanda rufu wapata bayinga aba bantu bajiburongo opeya ne rufu mune balire Chinyanda wajinga wa mukazi mono wa mulume wamwera byokanya twashera mubuyanji akusakatu yanda akusakwatulanguluka Tawara Kialo kiabene. Oh Tawara mukyalo kya bene tebalala mukyalo kya bene kanga bakine tebalala mukyalo kya bene Abika.
Good evening, Chuempala. Good evening, Zambia. Good evening, world. Today, on the Facebook page of President Hakainde Hichilema, he's just announced to the nation of the passing of former president of our republic, Arabi IV, who passed away today, 11 March 2022. The announcing of the passing of President Rupiah Banda was also confirmed by Rupiah Banda's son, by President Rupiah Banda's son, Andrew Banda. And so the nation is in shock. The nation is in mourning right now. And we understand that both the government and the family are going to advise us on the next steps that are going to be taken in this during this bereavement. President Rupiah Bwezani Banda was born on 19th February 1937. He passed on today, making him about 85 years old. He was born in Gwanda, and perhaps one of the very things that are very interesting about him, having born in Gwanda, Zimbabwe, from parents from this northern Rhodesia at that time. We all know much of his story, but of course, as TV Vakwetu, we are going to be talking amongst ourselves and also inviting some people that served with President Rupiah Banda for them to remember him on this platform. There is a long story. There is a very long history of how we can remember President Rupiah Banda. A man who lives for 85 years has a very long story. And so there is just no one single story about Dr. Banda. He was a diplomat in his youth. He was a student. He was a parent. He was a father. He was a grandfather and a great-grandfather. He was vice president, and then he was president, and then he became an ex-president. President Rupiah Banda shall be remembered for some of the most comical quips you can ever imagine. When he is faced with a very difficult thing, he had to depend on several words that still remain very memorable to many of us today. Some of them things like Nindalama za Nyoko. Some expressions like Kanitundila. Very, very great, humorous way of fighting back at life. There's going to be quite a lot that we are going to be looking at today, and we've already got several people that are lined up to discuss with us the life of Rupiah Bwezani Banda, Dr. Rupiah Bwezani Banda. General Norman Chipakopako, I know we shouldn't say general anymore because we are no longer on the other side. Mr. Norman Chipakopako. Good evening.
Good evening.
Rupiah Bwezani Banda has gone on to be with God. Your memories.
Good evening, Musha. Good evening, all the Wakwetu viewers. Good evening, Zambia. It's a very sad day. I'm broadcasting live straight at his home. It's a very sad day for Zambia. It's a very sad day for me because here is a person I considered a mentor. I considered a stabilizer. It's gone. Muncha, it's very, very difficult for me because I was very close to the president, former president, the late president. He's one person who mentored me into politics, Musha.
Right.
And I was just telling somebody a few minutes ago to say, if I was in Scotland, I would have been getting my ticket to fly back home to come and bury this man, this great man.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God I'm here. I was here to be able to see his body off. And it's a very sad day.
Now, Mr. Chipakopako, it's just a period of 1 year. I know how Dr. Kenneth Kaunda was close to you, how he mentored you in politics as well. And in less than a year, from your perspective, you've lost another mentor, Rupiah Bwezani Banda. That should be tough.
Musha and your viewers at Zambians, for me it's tough because these are two big giants of Zambian politics, and they mentored me, they mentored thousands more, and probably they inspired millions of Zambians. But for me to have worked very closely with Rupiah Banda under the tutelage of Dr. Kaunda, ending up in the Central Committee, sitting in the Central Committee with this great man who ended up becoming our president, to see his body this evening just like that was very emotional. And for me, it's very difficult because since I was appointed PS, we just phoned many times, but I never saw him. I never actually met him. I remember him just telling me, phoning me to congratulate me after being appointed PS, and he said, "This is the chance for you to work for your country."
Right.
And he said to me, "I know you're a patriot. You do your best to work for your country."
Right.
And this evening, to be at his house and see his body off, it's just very, it's humbling. It's very emotional. But I would say, I think the man has done his best for this country. The man he's run his race. I just pray that the family will be comforted. I'm with the family here. Most of his children are here.
Right.
His brother James, he has just escorted the body, and it's difficult. It's quite difficult. But for Zambia to have lost another leader just within 1 year, it's going to be hard.
Right. Now, a part of your story with the Banda family goes back to Chipata. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Musha, I was a young soldier sent to Chipata, Gonda Barracks, in the early 70s. I think in 1972 when I first met Rupiah Banda. I was a young man then, and I met the family, the mother, the late mother, the late father. And it's from that time that I knew this man. And he took me in as a son and introduced me to politics. And I learned a lot from this great diplomat he was, great politician. And since that time, this man I refer to as Malume, which means uncle.
Right.
And I've known him since the 70s, I think since 1972. I remember his parents, his mom and dad, and I remember that great place, the farm, where it was people's home. It was going to his home, you'd find hundreds of people, very generous man. He used to feed so many people. And here I am now, I think preparing to go back to the family in Chipata, depending on where he's going to be buried. Just go and look at his father's grave and look at his mom's grave and say, thank you for this great man. This great freedom fighter, and I think great leader as well in his own way.
Very, very sad. Now, Mr. Chipakupaku, you are now serving our country. You are permanent secretary at the Ministry of Defense. And President Rupiah Banda himself used to be a president of the country. How do you see the Zambian defense establishment mourning their former commander-in-chief?
Musha, just it's a privilege to have been here at his house to basically get instructions from the secretary to the cabinet, who gave me the authority to take the body. Basically, the military has taken over the body tonight. And it was such a privilege to do that on behalf of the secretary to the cabinet. I had to give the instructions to the army personnel who came to pick the body. It was such a privilege. It's such a privilege. I can say now the board is in the hands of the military, in the hands of the state. And I think we are preparing, because the president has already announced officially, we should be preparing to get into a period of national mourning, which will be announced by the president. And the defense forces, I think I can speak as PS, will prepare everything to give this man a presidential burial, and depending on what the commander-in-chief will say. But as the defense forces will do what we do best, is to give him a decent burial, a decent ceremonial burial as a former commander-in-chief.
Now, PS Chipako, tomorrow is Youth Day, and it feels almost like a passing on of the baton, where President Rupiah Banda passes on a day before the Youth Day. Any messages for the youths?
I think, I thought I was resting, but I've just, by 5 o'clock, I got my card that I should be at the Youth Day celebrations. Tomorrow I will go. I hope I will be able to meet some of the youths to remind them that generation of the freedom fighters is going, that they should not forget them, that they should thank them for the peace which this country is currently enjoying. I mean, let's look at the role this man played during the transition after the elections last year.
Right. And perhaps that is a story we'll need to delve in much later, and historians watched that time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the young Zambians, the youth of Zambia, they should all remember the role he played, the many roles he played, but most important role is the role he played to make sure that we had a smooth transition on the 24th of August last year. He played his part. He played his part as a statesman, and I think that's one of the many things we should remember him for.
Thank you very much, PS Chipako. Tomorrow is Youth Day, and sometimes our youths sometimes may forget that, in actual fact, old people like the 85-year-old departed former president was once a youth, and they dedicated their time, their youth, to helping to contribute to this country. And so during this Youth Day, this very, very mournful Youth Day, we are going to be remembering all these former youths.
I think it's important to remember, for the youths to remember, that this man was a youth. He became a diplomat when he was very young. He became a cabinet minister when he was very, very young. And it simply means our youths have a big challenge to follow the footsteps of the great people like Rupiah Banda, people like Vijay, who are still alive. That even if you are a youth, you can still play your role and contribute to your country. And I think Uncle Arabi did just that.
Thank you. Do you have any concluding remarks?
I think for me, Musha, this is a privilege to come back to Bakwetu and announce bad news about the passing on of my own uncle and the former president of this republic. I just want to say thank you to all the people who supported us during the elections last year, and for all those who sent the messages congratulating me to be after my appointment as PS. Can I promise you one thing? I will do my best to serve this country, and I will do my best to represent the diaspora. I think I've been quiet, deliberately trying to focus on my work. That's what I can promise you. I will do my best, and I'm sure this government is going to do its best to handle all the issues which we have, mainly the economic issues, and probably the second one, trying to reunite our country. We will do our best.
Thank you. Mr. Norman Chipako, please know that TV Bakwetu and several of our listeners and this country thanks you for your dedication and congratulations. We are very, very proud of what you have done and your service to this country. And you began serving this country as a 16-year-old soldier. And for that, I want you to know that sometimes we do say a lot of good things, but while you are living, I want you to know that this country is extremely proud of the contribution you've made from the time that you were a 16-year-old. You know, I have a 16-year-old boy in my house, and I look at him and I think, this is the age at which Mr. Norman Chipakupako started serving our country. And so to you, and to the man you were saying, your uncle, President Rupiah Banda, we thank you.
Thank you, Musha, and thank you to all the Vakwetu viewers, and thank you to all the viewers of Vakwetu. Thank you to all the Zambians for believing in what we said, Musha, during the last 6 months. And
Right.
thank you to all the Zambians, and thank you to all the viewers. By the way, wherever I go, Musha, they're always asking for Dr. Musha, and at times I don't know what to say. Even this evening, I stopped over after work. I was having a cup of tea somewhere, and somebody said, "Where's Dr. Musha, Elias Musha?" I said, "I think he's somewhere in Canada."
And so that's exactly what happens to me when I am in Lusaka or in Chingola, Solwezi. I meet people and they ask me about you. So mama nabantu ba mulomwaini nga bamona imwe banjipsha palini nga bamona ine, they want to know where you are, but I always tell them that you are busy serving our country, and for that we are extremely proud.
Thank you so much, Musha. Thank you, and keep up the good work. The team at Vakwetu, please keep up the good work. Remember, we have a job to do to deliver some of the promises, if not all the promises we made. We still have a big job to reunite our country. And remember, Zambians, we still have a job to rebuild our economy. So I think TV Vakwetu, that's the task which you have ahead of you, to help us to reunite our country and rebuild our economy. I think that's the task we have. The campaign is over. This is time to rebuild.
Thank you. Thank you, PS Chipakupako. Please convey our sincere condolences to First Lady Thandiwe Banda and to the rest of the family, the children, and we'll continue mourning and remembering Dr. Rupiah Bwezani Banda.
Thank you so much, Musha, from the late President's house. I'll just say good night to all of you and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so, our dear viewers, that's PS Norman Chipakupako, who is at the home of President Rupiah Banda, who passed away this evening, Zambian time, this afternoon, Alberta time. May his soul rest in peace. We continue remembering Rupiah Bwezani Banda. Mr. Kanika.
Yes, Mamuj.
Rupiah Bwezani Banda, your memories.
Yeah, I think first to start with, Mamuj, I think it's a very sad day, actually, sad evening for the country. And it's like the former president was waiting for the president to address parliament, then he says goodbye. And it's sad that the president went even yesterday there to visit him and check on him. Then today he hears that he has passed on, and it is something that has touched me very, very bad. I think myself, I remember Rupiah Bwezani Banda at the time I was in student leadership at Ridgeway campus. Yeah, I think at one time we should be when we are learning, should be 2010, 2011 there, when we are learning to have more like the elections for the country. President Hakainde Hichilema actually visited Ridgeway campus, and it happened that it was me who was with the President Hakainde Hichilema and guiding him all the places he was supposed to visit at Ridgeway campus, especially those areas and classes that I knew that were in bad state. Then from there, I think when President Hakainde Hichilema left, we received a call from the president himself, President Arabi, asking the executive, the union, which I was also as executive member then, to say what is happening at Ridgeway campus. Nyanja inova munshara atukanefi
Lande fye. Kulanda nyanja chabonse.
Yeah, imwe Ridgeway campus nishi mnefongomba na ba opposition nangushani and such. He was talking to my secretary general by then. Actually, since I was a vice president, so I was talking to my secretary general in the union, asking what President Hakainde Hichilema came to do, and my involvement, myself as Jerome Kaniko mentioned to say, your vice president has been mentioned to be in the entourage of President Hakainde Hichilema. What happened? By that same day, actually, we happened to have like a youth indaba, like the one which was there today. We had a youth indaba and we were invited. So after my secretary general talked to him very, very nicely in a well and calm way, instead of him getting upset, I know if it was the other president, it was my my suspension would have reached there and then. But Arabi just have to say, whatever they talk in Nyanja, learn to behave. You need to behave. You need to know that you have come to learn, not to do politics. So make sure that you just maybe the former president has just had a soft spot on President Hakainde Hichilema. Maybe if it was Mr. Sata, it would have been something else for me.
Altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of memories. So when you live for 85 years, you have a long history from which to pick your story, and so all these things are part of the legacy of Rupiah Banda. You can't pick and choose to say you're only going to choose for when he's a youth, or when he's born in Gwanda, Zimbabwe, or anything like that. You have to look at it from an entire spectrum. And there's always going to be both positives and negatives, but that is what makes the stature of a man that Rupiah Bwezani Banda was. But just from what I can remember about Rupiah Banda, the earliest I can remember myself was that he was a candidate for UNIP in the 1991 elections in Munali. And of course, those that I was very young then, but those that can remember how the election in 1991 went, Frederick Chiluba's MMD won all the other seats except for Eastern Province. And so Rupiah Banda tumbled very, very badly in Munali, and he lost to Ronald Penza in Munali. But his son, Andrew Banda, was the candidate for MMD in Chipata. So the pattern was UNIP won all the seats in Eastern Province, and MMD won all the other seats across the country. Andrew Banda. So that's how I knew Rupiah Banda and Andrew Banda. Andrew Banda, the son, was part of the MMD and lost in Chipata Central constituency. I think shortly after that, he then retired from active politics for many years. They still, of course, tried to put UNIP together, but eventually he retired. But in 2000, in the year 2000 and 2001 particularly, there are several forces that happened, several things that made Levi Mwanawasa to go and try to search for Rupiah Banda after he had well retired and settled in the village, Komushi. And so the story of Rupiah Banda is incomplete without looking at how Levi Mwanawasa's presidency played out. And so I want to talk a little bit about the Levi Mwanawasa presidency. Mwanawasa came into power with a lot of illegitimacy surrounding him. Lots of illegitimacy. the election in 2001 was widely believed to have been stolen from Anderson Mazoka. And in fact, Mwanawasa himself won by a very small margin, very small margin. And so he wanted to be legitimate, and so he tried to bring in as many people to support him as possible. But the problem with the Levi Mwanawasa presidency was, so he had issues with the UPND, and then he had issues within the MMD itself. There were several people who believed that he was not a legitimate guy. He had issues with the opposition, Michael Sat and several other people. And then he is believed to have uttered some words against the Bembas, like something like that. And so that made him then to seek out a Bemba vice president, Dr. Nevas Mumba, who became vice president under President Levi Mwanawasa. And then, of course, Dr. Nevas Mumba did his service, and then President Levi Mwanawasa went for Lupando Mwape, selected President Lupando Mwape as vice president. And then, surprisingly, Vice President Lupando Mwape lost a seat in Kasama to PF. Imagine, in the 2006 elections, an entire vice president loses. At that time, I think Levi Mwanawasa stopped quoting the Bemba votes. He just said, I will not concentrate on Bembas. Bembas, we are done. And during that time, he then decided to appoint Rupiah Banda. So he went to the village in Eastern Province and brought Rupiah Banda as his vice president. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah.
Or you were still a baby?
No. Actually, I did happen to vote in 2006. The only election which I didn't vote should be about 2001, if I'm not mistaken. But 2006, I voted. Yeah. So yes, I have some memories over the coming in of Rupiah Banda as a vice president, though there's some agreement that we hear, but we don't know how true is that the President Mwanawasa, offered to say, if I win Eastern Province as a president, I'll give someone from Eastern as a vice president. So I think that's maybe what happened, but I don't know how true that is. So yeah, I still remember.
But the thing is, if Lupando Mwape had won in Kasama, I think that was Lukasha. Was that Lukasha? If Lupando Mwape had won in Kasama, he would have continued him, I think. But it's true that Rupiah Banda played a huge role. Because remember, Mwanawasa is dealing with the legitimacy questions. So he goes back and seeks all these older guards like Rupiah Banda, and Rupiah Banda, of course, had his own beef with MMD, with his own beef with Frederick Chiluba, and so he was willing to jump ship and become and support Levi Mwanawasa. And of course, from that support, because they were doing the campaigns in Eastern Province together, and from that support, I think Levi Mwanawasa thought Rupiah Banda would be the best person to be vice president.
Yeah, I think you are very much right. But again, when you check very well, 2006, how Rupiah Banda assisted the MMD in terms of winning the Eastern Power with a huge margin. I think he deserved that, and he was a very key person to make sure that the president, by then President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa, wins the elections. So the appointment of Arabi, actually, then though for some of us, I didn't know that it was that Arabi, but we heard about someone working very hard, and we came to discover that it was Arabi. That's when some of us started digging now to say, who's this Arabi? That's when we started knowing, it was a diplomat and all those kind of things. Yeah.
Right. Now, after Arabi becomes vice president, one of the things that happened was that he was vice president, but he was vice president in name, actually. The actual power was held by a different minister. And that minister is known as Ngandu Magande. So if you have to play the politics around this, while Rupiah Banda is vice president, the actual Atefefiwomba. So kutu wakwata vice president, but vice president wobe the main person. So it was Ngandu Magande, such that when Levi Mwanawasa begins getting sick, the real power is not with Rupiah Banda at all. You know, it's with these other ministers that are circulating within MMD, and definitely Ngandu Magande is Levi Mwanawasa's favorite, so to speak. And if there is any one among the ministers who is being earmarked by Levi Mwanawasa to succeed him, it's not Rupiah Banda.
I think anyway, let's go wait as we go to heaven to hear whom President Mwanawasa was thinking. Actually, for me, I feel the relationship that Honorable Ngandu Magande had with President Mwanawasa was a special one in such a way that when he was appointed, Honorable Magande asked President Mwanawasa to allow him to be free and open to give him any advice. So in that way, that didn't mean that he got maybe the authority or got the vice presidency. No. You see, no wonder President Mwanawasa had to put
Magande was an extremely powerful cabinet minister in the post 2006.
Because he negotiated his appointment very well.
No. Okay, there is the thing of negotiating and everything else, and then there is the actual deployment of power. So because no matter how much you negotiate, if at the actual implementation you are being sidelined, you can be very easily sidelined. But Ngandu Magande was the most influential of all the ministers, right? Now I'll come to that. When Rupiah Banda, when Levi Mwanawasa dies, there is then a stalemate in MMD. Who is going to be the candidate? And I think Rupiah Banda played it very well. And he, as vice president, of course, he became an acting president. And as an acting president, it was easy for him to run in that by-election and won in his own right. Isn't it?
I think on that one, maybe since we are in this process of now talking about issues of RB, I think definitely we need to talk what happened during the time for who should succeed Mwanawasa. But one thing which I can say is Ngandu Magande also mentioned about what really transpired in that period of time. But though
it will be good to read. Okay, so now Rupiah Banda wins in 2008 in what, and the famous clip of Michael Sata walking up to the journalists and telling them, and very angry at journalists, to say, how can Rupiah Banda, I have won. It is not Rupiah Banda that has won.
You are the journalists, go ask them.
Yeah, you are the journalists, go and ask them. But Rupiah Banda clearly won that 2008 election. The politics had changed. So now I can see Phil Pungonga is saying that Munsha Arabi took over from Kavindele as vice president. I think Phil is a little bit mistaken. Phil, Mwanawasa's vice presidents were Kavindele, who was a holdover from Frederick Chiluba. So Frederick Chiluba's vice president in the year 2000 was Kavindele. In 2000 or 2001, Kavindele. When Mwanawasa took over as president, he maintained Kavindele as vice president. Then a few months down the line, Mwanawasa felt like he needed Bembas. And because they needed that, then he went for Nevas Mumba, who at that time was a firebrand against corruption. So he became vice president of the nation. And then, of course, they had a fallout between Dr. Mumba and Dr. Levi Mwanawasa. And then Levi Mwanawasa appointed a Northern Province deputy minister known as Lupando Mwape to become vice president. So Lupando Mwape was appointed to become vice president. Lupando Mwape then worked as vice president until the year 2006, when Lupando Mwape lost his seat in Northern Province, in Lukasha, I believe. Lost to Elfrida Kasembele. Elfrida Kasembele, I think. That was a very disappointing defeat of a sitting vice president defeated. And that's how now, when Mwanawasa appointed the new cabinet in 2006, he brought Rupiah Banda, nominated him to parliament, and appointed him as vice president in 2006. That's a little bit of history there. But of course, another thing to know is that Mwanawasa froze the position of vice president in the party. So when Lupando Mwape was vice president of the country, he was not vice president of the party because they decided to freeze it. Because when they were trying to go to the convention, it was very heavily contested. Nevas Momba, Lupando Mwape, Austin Chewe, and several other powerful bigwigs, Bemba bigwigs, who wanted to be vice president of the MMD. It did not happen. They froze it. Anyway, that's a little bit about 2008. And then, of course, in 2008, several dynamics are happening. Chiluba changes his allegiance. In 2006, Chiluba's allegiance was with Michael Sata as a candidate. In 2008, Chiluba changes his allegiance to Rupiah Banda. That made Michael Sata very, very angry, extremely angry. That Chiluba could change his mind and support RB. Several other things as well. In 2008, the Mwanawasa loyalists as well, they are angry with RB, so they also regroup into the UPND. Mostly the UPND benefited from the RB, from the Levi Mwanawasa loyalists who had been sidelined by Rupiah Banda. And such that by the time the election in 2011 is coming, several forces are fighting against RB, and he could not survive it. Do you remember 2011?
Yeah, I think Bamushani check very well. As for me, my first time actually to vote, if I'm not mistaken, was 2006, and 2006, I think I voted for UPND. I don't know if it was Mazoka then or it was Hichilema, but it should be Mazoka. Then in
2006, it was Hichilema.
Hichilema, yeah. Then I voted for Hichilema. Yes, I voted for Hichilema. Then 2008, I voted for also President Hakainde Hichilema than the RB. I didn't want the MMD by then. Then 2011, there we just said whatever, though we knew that it would be very tough, especially for UPND to do a very good job, but some of us, we had to stick to UPND because I knew what HH was. HH was coming up with the solutions to all the problems that we were trying to see, but that was so toxic. Yeah.
So as President, Rupiah Banda presides over the country from 2008 to 2011, and he did not hide his support for Frederick Chiluba. He, of course, had a disdain for Michael Sata. But then he, I think, mishandles the Lozi uprising in Mongu, and he did it very, very late in about 2011. He sends police to Mongu, and there is a shooting in Mongu. And so Rupiah Banda did not play that very well. And if we look back at his legacy, that would be one of the things, I think, that were responsible for him losing.
Okay. Council, I think, yeah, my wife, she's working, so let me I'm in with the kids, and I am with one of the boys has woken up. Oh,
right. Thank you. Thank you. We continue remembering the life of Rupiah Bwezani Banda. And the 2011 election, the other thing that characterized it was what Zambians believed to have been extravagance. But when we look back, actually, the 2008 to 2011 are one of the best times, really, for Zambia in terms of the economy. I think Ngandu Magande and Mwanawasa and Stumbeko Msokotwane and the Rupiah Banda really worked very hard to help our country from 2008 to 2011. We look back and I think it was one of the best economic times. But the challenge was that Zambians were not feeling it. It appeared like they were not really benefiting as yet. But I think 2008 and 2011 were very good years for the Zambian economy, its integrity, its structure. And Rupiah Banda should be credited with that, with creating that in 2008 to 2011. Of course, the perception that he was corrupt, the song that Sata used to sing about, the regrouping of the forces, be it the Levi Mwanawasa loyalists who abandoned the MMD, or the Michael Sata issues with Frederick Chiluba. And of course, Michael Sata being a very shrewd politician who would use the Bemba vote and also urban populism to rise against the MMD. And also, I think the miscalculation on Barotseland, Rupiah Banda's miscalculation on Barotseland, because then it gave an ammunition to Michael Sata to go to Barotseland. Nokia beba to Rupiah Banda remi shoot remi pa gana isam guteka. I'll give it to you. And I think that made a difference as far as Barotseland is concerned. And the fact that Sata also created another alliance now, an alliance between himself, his political party, which was Bemba predominantly, with the Barotseland party, which brought Mrs. Inonge Wina into PF, and even given Lubinda himself into PF. And so those are the forces that rose against Rupiah Banda, and it was too much to resist, and it was a little bit too much to resist, and that is what happened in 2011. And then, of course, in 2011, after President Rupiah Banda loses that election in 2012, 2013. The MMD, his political party, goes to an election and elects Dr. Nevas Mumba as president of the MMD. And so post 2011, the legacy also continues to be a little bit mixed between, has President Rupiah Banda retired fully, or is he still interested in coming back? And indeed, he was interested. But I think the theme of our discussion of Rupiah Banda's life is from the slogan he used in 2011. And the slogan was "A president for all Zambians." I think if there is any slogan that we look back and feel very much connected to, it was that slogan, "A president for all Zambians." So as a former vice president, Rupiah Banda is part of very few a very exclusive group of former vice presidents. And so today we are joined by former vice president and former member of this group, a member of this exclusive group of former vice presidents, Dr. Nevas Mumba. Good evening, Dr. Mumba.
Good evening, And how are you? I'm so sorry that my picture looks a little bit Chinsalian, but I'm sure we'll get past this. We'll get past this. One day I'll be just like you. Yes, sir.
No, it is me who will one day be just like you. Panto, things don't go backwards. Fear.
They don't go backwards. They go forward. You are being kind. Thank you.
Dr. Mumba, President Rupiah Banda was vice president. You are former vice president. Your group is losing its members. How do you remember President Rupiah Banda?
Well, first of all, let me start by again expressing our deepest condolences to the Banda family, to the former First Lady, Madam Tandiwe Banda, his children and friends, and he had many friends. I think this is a very, very difficult day for many, many people because President Banda is one of those people that many political leaders in this country have a story to tell about how they have either interacted with him, what they have learned from him, either through his statements or just his life, which is phenomenal. Let me start by saying that I think that losing President Rupiah Banda reminds us of a fading generation of those leaders, political leaders, whose understanding of public service was very, very different from the current understanding of public service by many. Look at President Rupiah Banda himself, the late. He started this, all he knew and he has known all his life is to serve his nation. Together with Dr. Kaunda and the others, they shaped the very country that we now call home. They lived all their lives to do this. There's nothing else. Of course, they would have done business here and there, but the overall commitment of President Rupiah Banda and his team was to give us a nation, and we do have a nation. At 27 years old, I'm sure you know that he became ambassador to Egypt, very, very young age. I'm talking about dedication from a very young age. At 30 years old, I think he became ambassador to Washington. And now that is phenomenal. I mean, you know, those are very, you know, early ages. 74, he went to New York as UN ambassador for Zambia, then came back home in 75 and became the foreign affairs minister. One thing many people do not know is that President Rupiah Banda is about the only Zambian that has ruled two countries in his lifetime. He was president of Zambia, but prior to that, he was also the president of the UN Council on Namibia when, you know, South Africa was pushed away and its legitimacy over Namibia was questioned. President Rupiah Banda acted as president of Namibia, an interesting phenomenon. So all we can say is that we are talking about the demise of a man who was an institutional memory. That is why if those of you that have sat with President Rupiah Banda, you sit with him for 1 hour, it's like you've been to a university about everything from diplomacy to politics to history of how, you know, our independence was observed. So we thank God for the moments that God gave us with him, and we can only pray that those virtues that made them what they were as they shaped this country can be seen in this current generation.
Now, he, so in 2000, around 2008, if I can remember very well, your relationship with him is long and it's hills and valleys. So is he the one who brought you back into public service and sent you to Canada as a diplomat?
Yeah, I think President Rupiah's relationship with me is I call it a natural life relationship. We've had a lot of ups together and a lot of downs together. But I think through that process, I came to appreciate the humanity of President Rupiah Banda. He never acted to do what he wasn't. If he decided he wants to do something, he's going to go ahead and do it. He's the one who told me in 2008, after President Mwanawasa died, I had already left, government because I'd been, vice president at that time, and then I was relieved of my duties by Mwanawasa. And then he called me and said, Nevers, I'm going to go on campaign. I want you to come and campaign with me for the northern block of our country, Northern Province, Luapula Province, and Copperbelt Province. So, and Muchinga, where at that time, I don't think there was Muchinga. So I traveled with him in the same chopper throughout the campaign when we're doing the northern block, and had a wonderful moments of history telling and vision casting. So from that regard, he
I think. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. You're back, Mr. Vice President. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying he brought me back into public office, and then when after that he won the election. Then he called me to Government House because he still was in Government House as Vice President. He said to me, "My brother, I was thinking of making you Vice President, but if I make you Vice President, they'll kill us. Because me, I'm from UNIP and you are from NCC. So both of us are foreigners in MMD. So I cannot do this. They'll kill us. So,
Yeah.
but I want to send you to your country to become ambassador." I said, "My country to become ambassador?" He said, "Nevers, are you not an American? I'm trying to find a place in America for you to go and be an ambassador." Well, he tried to do that. He didn't, and he found Canada. So he called me one day. He said, "No, America seems to be stuck. We don't have an opening there, but can you go to Ottawa?" So it was an honor to serve him. And, during my time in Ottawa, I related extremely well with him. I was also in charge of Cuba. And when he came to visit Cuba, I was there with him. I was just amazed at his intelligence, his knowledge. And we had let me say this, we had, what do you call these people who guide you? A guide, telling us about the history of, Cuba and the revolution and all that. And President Rupiah Banda decided to take over and started to unload the history of Cuba and places in Cuba and what this meant. And I was mesmerized that this man had so much information about Cuba. But you must understand, this is a generation of freedom fighting. And Cuba was part of, this struggle. And it was an inspiration to a lot of freedom fighters in Africa. So we'll miss him. I will miss him immensely for his stories of our nation.
Now, having you on the program to talk about President Rupiah Banda, it opens to several layers. And Mr. Vice President, some of our listeners may never have another chance to follow through some of this history. That's sadly what is happening, because our conversations in our country are very limited to perhaps what is happening on social media or the immediate politics. Where is Lungu? Where is HH? Where is what? But to look back at at how things are happening, and the richness of that conversation sometimes is limited. Now, we are going to look back. When you come back in 2012, I believe, from Ottawa, and you find the MMD in need of a leader, you then stepped in, and what happened after that in relation to your relationship with Dr. Banda?
Well, I think when I arrived, it was a dramatic arrival because President Michael Sata had planned to arrest me at the airport. So I was privileged to have hundreds and hundreds of members of MMD to come and welcome me and protect me against arrest, I must say. And when I was coming from the airport in the long convoy of vehicles, we actually met President Rupiah Banda on his way, I think, to Congo or somewhere where he was leading a delegation in an election. We agreed that upon his arrival, I was going to see him at home, because my dedication was that I would not touch running for the presidents of MMD without his blessing. And so I went to his house when he came back, and I said, "Mr. President, I've been asked if I could run for the presidents of MMD." At that time, he didn't think that, I should run, and he had his own reasons. Some of them, we kept talking about them even after I won the presidency. But at that time, I came late, if you remember, from Canada. They had already started to campaign and were candidates, and I found out that he had already started to support another candidate. So it was very difficult for him to change from one candidate to the other. I think he was concerned about his own morality and integrity of switching the candidate that he was supporting. So he told me that, look, if it is possible for you to just be a NEC member, we'll support you and stuff. But, somehow we agreed that if I really felt that I should run. But when I won the presidency of MMD, he was there at Mulongoshi Conference Center. He gave a glowing speech as he handed over what we call the instruments of power. I think if there was any a disturbance in our relationship, it was when President Michael Sata died, and the president Rupiah Banda decided to come back, and contest the presidency in 2015. That was a bit problematic because of our constitution and the fact that we had gone to a convention, a new president had been chosen. It really became murky. Like my wife always tells me, that I have to understand that certain differences are not because somebody doesn't like you. And I can confirm now that I do not think that President Rupiah Banda didn't like me. I think he had a plan that he wanted to execute, and it's like I stood in that plan, in the way of that plan, because there was never a reason for President Rupiah Banda and I to really differ on anything. I mean, I almost worshipped him in respect, and he loved me to the extent that when he was giving me the job to come to Canada, he was whispering. I was the first person that visited him the first day he moved into Nkwazi House, a state house. I had lunch with him, just the two of us. The first lunch he had in Nkwazi, he had it with me. And so that's our background that we have. But he wanted to run for an election. But our constitution did not allow that much. And the people in the party, were deeply divided about him coming back. And that really was the beginning of what other people call a disagreement. But I want to close it up by saying that, yes, it was a terrible time because, he was like my elder brother who gave me what I had, the opportunity to be in Canada and meet with you, Mr. Munshia, when I came to Canada and talk with you. He made that possible. But I'm glad that a few months ago, when I called him to greet him when I heard that he wasn't feeling well, a gentleman answered the phone. And when he heard it was me, he said, "Is that Dr. Mumba?" I said, "Yes." Then he said to me, "No, it's not possible for you to speak to the president. He's busy with the doctors and it's a bad time, but we'll call you back." I heard the voice in the backyard, in the backyard of the conversation of President Rupiah Banda in a weak voice saying, "If it's Dr. Mumba, please give me the phone." So he got the phone in the middle of those days behind us. But it's time to put it all behind us and let us forge forward and build our country together. And to me, my eyes started to tear because I never thought I would hear those words from President Rupiah Banda, and yet he said them. And so I said to him, "You are more than a brother to me. You are a father to me. And may God keep you, and thank you for the words of reassurance that you've given to me." So to me, I am touched by his death today, but I know that he's gone with a free heart. At least as far as I'm concerned, we cleaned our books, and I salute him as a man for this country that has dedicated almost all his life to giving us the Zambia we currently enjoy.
Mr. Vice President, what role do you think he played in that meeting, the famous, I don't know what we can call it, the famous Lungu HH meeting, when he brought the two sides?
Well, they have kept the content of that meeting, close to their hearts, both President Lungu and President Hichilema. I mean, I've had many sessions with President Hichilema, but He's never opened up on that meeting, and it's really not important. It's for them. But I can tell that, just listen to President Hichilema, that that meeting was extremely crucial to bring President Lungu, who was very uncertain about his future. You must understand that the relationship that existed, or a lack of relationship between President ECL and HH, was very worrying, even in the last regime. I mean, there was really no space for camaraderie. And now, you know, the man was jailed for 127 days for a case we considered flimsy, is now president. So there was a lot of fear that this thing was going to be a very rough ride, and President Rupiah Banda recognized that and realized that, you know, the ball was now in his corner. He was the only one around who could fix that. And so he called both of them, and both of them respected his seniority and place in Zambian politics. They went to his house, and when they left the house, if you remember, there were smiles on President Lungu's face, smile on President Hakainde's face. And just that, I think, has contributed to some of the peace that we're experiencing now in this transition. I can, you know, say that confidently, because I think that that was an extremely important meeting.
Tomorrow is Youth
And
Day.
I don't know, Elas, I don't know whether there was any other person that could have made that meeting possible. That's how critical his role was.
Tomorrow is Youth Day. Every day I'm discovering, each birthday that I have, that the biggest reminder is that I was once a youth. Not anymore, Dr. Mumba. Tomorrow is Youth Day. Today we've lost Dr. Rupiah Banda at 85. Tomorrow is Youth Day. Any messages for the youth?
Yeah, I think when it comes at a time when we're celebrating a life that dedicated itself to the creation of our nation and the sustenance of our nation, where public service was really public service. I think to the younger generation, there are certain virtues we should really learn from this passing generation. That being in public service or in service, it's all about character. It's all about character. And if you have character, you can survive many things and many seasons. So I would like to say to the young people, there are certain things that have brought us this far. It's hard work, character, and also being sure about who you are. And those of us with a church background, we encourage young people, in order to deal with the hopelessness that is now invading our country. If you are aware, the number of suicide cases amongst the young people is alarming in our country. And as somebody from the church, I do understand that what really creates that is a hopelessness in the hearts of young people, where they feel they don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. But having God in your life and understanding that God planted you here for a purpose, it gives you a reason to want to see tomorrow. So the young people, I encourage them to be strong in their spirituality, in their commitment to God, because that's the only way hope can come alive in your life. Secondly, to learn to work hard. Nothing comes easy. This culture of, you know, just wanting people to give to you, that culture should be left behind in this new generation of young people. Work hard, work with your hands, work smart, work long hours in order to achieve your goal. There is a cutoff point when you can no longer be as strong as you are now. And if I were to advise you, you're a young person, use your energies right, not on useless things, but on things that are going to build your future. I don't want to go into the list of useless things, but on things that are going to help build your future. Spirituality, hard work, and character. Those three virtues are the ones that are going to make us a strong youth movement.
The late President Rupiah Banda became president in his 70s, and so did President Michael Sata, and so I know that, but that generation, the generation of that generation is passing on. At 85, Kenneth Kaunda was 95, or was it 95? And so very, very full lives, I believe. And sometimes our generation does not recognize the kind of contribution from our people. So I think Zambia greatly appreciates you, Dr. Nevas Mumba, and thank you for your dedication to this country. And I know that you are still young in that way, and if anything comes up, you should be ready to serve, isn't it?
Well, look, at the end of the day, my life has been in public service. If I include my 40 years in church ministry, then
which you started as a youth, by the way, right?
I became a pastor at the age of 22. That's when I became a pastor. I became an elder in Maranatha Assemblies of God at 19 years old. So all I've known are the words of the church and preaching and public service in politics, where I have been 25 years in politics. And I'm grateful to God that He's given me a burden for my country. And that's why I run around with the passion of Zambia shall be saved. And it comes from the day.
Yeah, I think we do lose you a little bit when you receive a phone call on your cell.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
So you're back. So thank you very much for sharing with us your memories of President Dr. Rupiah Banda, RB4. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Mumba. We appreciate you. We appreciate your story and your memories of President Rupiah Banda.
Thank you so much, Alas. Thank you for having me.
And we'll have you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
President Rupiah Banda has gone on to be with the Lord, 85 years old. Long story, long history. Thank you for having joined me here today in remembering Dr. Rupiah Bwezani Banda. May his soul rest in peace, and our government is going to be telling us a little bit more about the program concerning his mourning. This has been a very sad presentation of TV Bakwetu. My name is Elias Munsha, as well as several guests that appeared today. Mr. Norman Chipakupaku, who at the time that he was doing the broadcast was at the home of our departed former president. And then we were joined by Jerome Kanika, and then Dr. Nevas Mumba, the former vice president of our country, and a very close collaborator of President Rupiah Banda. May President Rupiah Banda so rest in peace. Elias Moshe here. Good night.